Well, that was quick. If there was a Guinness Book of World Records for losing in record time in a court case, I think the Trump regime has won that on Friday, but they've won it repeatedly with their disastrous policies. A federal judge in Massachusetts has granted Harvard University a preliminary injunction blocking the Trump regime's attempt to declare all foreign students who attend Harvard University essentially persona non grata, literally saying that they're illegal people for being attending Harvard University. The best and brightest from across the world is, one of the things that Harvard tries to represent that it is attracting. Although if you listen to Trump's press conference that he gave on Friday, he claims that people in Harvard don't know how to do basic arithmetic and math. They don't know 2 + 2 = 4. And Trump says that's why he was doing this unlawful order directing the Homeland Security to basically say that Harvard is facilitating terroristic behavior. And even though Harvard has not violated a single law, even though Harvard has not engaged in any misconduct that could actually be pointed to in any statute or otherwise, and the fact that the Trump regime wanted to basically seize control and audit political viewpoints of Harvard. Wasn't there that situation too where the Trump regime also claimed that they sent the letter attacking Harvard initially in error, and then they got mad at Harvard for responding to the erroneously sent letter, and then that pissed them off. So they said, all right, Harvard, now we got to go double and triple down in our attack against you. So the Trump regime's been doing a lot of stuff against Harvard, saying they're taking away Harvard's federal funding, research funding, and now trying to really destroy the university by going after their international students. When we saw that, we knew, Harry and I, that this was blatantly unlawful. Harvard's got great lawyers. Harvard's been great at pushing back against all this unlawful stuff by the Trump regime. And as I said at the outset, in record time, Harvard got this preliminary injunction granted against the Trump regime by federal judge Allison Burroughs. So now the Trump regime can go and just whine over and over again. Oh, the judges, the activist judges, we keep on losing. You're losing because you're doing unlawful things. And don't you notice, Harry, that they seem to be going, just think about it on Friday alone. Who'd they go after? Apple, the number one most profitable company in the United States. They go after Harvard, the number one university in research. So it seems like when Donald Trump would talk about, the enemy from within or whatever those terms are, I don't know what the definition of that would be, but it would seem to be something that would be destroying the best institutions of the United States. And you could judge for yourself if this is what is taking place right now. I think you know what I believe, but let's just take a look, Harry, at what Harvard said in their motion that it got instantly granted. They said, for more than 70 years, Harvard University has been certified by the federal government to enroll international students under the F1 visa program, and it has long been designated as an exchange program sponsor to host J1 non-immigrants. Harvard has, over this time, developed programs and degrees tailored to its international students, invested millions to recruit the most talented such students, and integrated its international students into all aspects of Harvard's community. Yesterday, the government abruptly revoked that certification without process or cause, to immediate and devastating effects for Harvard and more than 7,000 visa holders. The revocation is a blatant violation of the First Amendment, the Due Process Clause, and the Administrative Procedure Act. It is the latest act by the government in clear retaliation for Harvard exercising its First Amendment rights to reject the government's demand to control Harvard's governance, curriculum, and, quote, the ideology of its faculty and students. I can't believe I am reading a document like that in the United States of America. Harry Lippman, break it down for us, sir.
Yeah. First, this is scorched earth kind of tactics on their part. What Harvard says is no exaggeration. A quarter of their student body, 7,000 people, and they are integrated into every aspect of the university, teaching, research, and the like. So this is how can we hurt them the most? Second, I want to note the APA claim, but very briefly, look, Harvard has a really strong claim, and you're right. They get it out within 12 hours, and then it seems like 10 minutes later, she enters the injunction. Basically, if you just take them at their word, why they're doing it, it's clear sort of discrimination on the basis of a viewpoint that's almost impossible to justify. And it's also discrimination as a reprisal for what they said and as a payback. And that is essentially impossible. That's like out the window. The APA part, Ben, I just want to point out because, you know, it seems like the government's talking, oh, we're so gracious letting you have this program. Every school has the, you know, this F1 and J1. And so far they've gone after individual students. This is literally, it's just the administrative kind of license, like you'd have in an elevator, you can operate it. They just want to pull it. And all of a sudden, foreign students are left complete. They cannot get a visa if the organization they're teaching at doesn't have this piece of paper. So it is a potential death blow. And you do have the other point I want to make is, so the APA claim is you can't just do it willy-nilly. You've got to go through things. That's true, but no one's ever even tried to do this before. This, however, is really an example of the Trump, you know, heads I win, tails you lose. Harvard is, and I was just talking to people this morning who are really involved in it, in total bedlam. Graduate students, and it's time now to figure out, will they be at Harvard next year? Can they get a visa? Do they roll the dice? Do they try to go elsewhere? And, you know, this best and brightest point, really important. It seems like he's going after the elite institution. And by the way, yeah, did he maybe? I taped my podcast, Allison Camerata said, maybe he applied and didn't get in. You know, why has he got this so personally? It seems that that's what they're doing, but it's so broader than that. The partnership between universities and the government have produced so much by way of, you know, biomedical things and healthcare things and advances of all kinds that redound to the benefit of everybody in the country, really around the world. So he thinks in a way he's really throttling Harvard, and he is. But, you know, the bottom line, here's a point I like to make. The United States is the leading country in the world in Nobel Prizes, but over half of the recipients were born elsewhere. This is the United States as the magnet for the best and brightest at Harvard and elsewhere. And that's who's really being harmed, not just Harvard, almost Harvard least of all, but everything that's achieved with this, what's been to date the bountiful relationship between universities and the government. And, you know, this is just, it's going to go. The administration will now scream. They'll try to go to the First Circuit. They'll try to go to the Supreme Court. And if they get any inroads, even brief, she had to enter it quickly because the situation on the ground, if the administration can have its way for a few days, is devastating for Harvard, for, you know, all the ways in which the 7,000 international students are really integrated into the school, and they are.
Suck it. You know who said that? Christine, the Homeland Security Secretary, dog killer cosplayer. I want people to know the type of people we're dealing with right here. I mean, because, you know, this whole operation is being led by someone who, on the same day, in a different setting, in a case where people had to dismiss their lawsuit because they were already deported and couldn't come back. So the case was moot. So they had to voluntarily dismiss their case. Kristi Noem wrote, "Suck it." And as I'm as I'm just trying to process this, as someone who's been a lawyer for quite some time now, as a law professor, just thinking about my class. I mean, Harry, you were one of the top people in the Department of Justice and Maine Justice. You've been responsible for prepping people for hearings in front of the Senate. You've reviewed judicial applications for the federal bench. You're the top federal prosecutor in the Western District of Pennsylvania. There is a cruelty, a maliciousness, a weirdness, and just this like behavior, of like Harvard versus a person saying, suck it, like suck it.
Yeah.
What are we dealing with here?
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my.
No. I mean, you really put it right, and it is again. It's so short. Look, this is again. We're getting at Harvard, elite Harvard, whatever. We're getting at academic freedom in the country. We're getting at universities' ability to do so much for people in the world. But really, what did they do wrong? You made the point. Look. Harvard is somehow, the administration is somehow saying you're being woke or whatever. If they were violating the law, if they were doing whatever they think it is, affirmative action or countenancing anti-Semitic behavior in a way that violated the law, they could be penalized. They could be, regulated. But what you're talking about is they're within the law and within academic freedom, but just not in a way that Donald Trump likes. He's, in his perception, too woke. That is no legal basis when you're talking especially about academic freedom. But it's this, kind of breathtaking power grab to take them by the throat. And Harvard's got a lot of resources. They've been around for 400 years, but man, oh man, this is like a death match, and he's really doesn't want to let up. And whatever nasty thing he can think to do, that's the thing he'll do, legal basis or none. And I know people at Harvard, including like the muckety mucks, think we're taking him on. We have to take him on. Good thing they're taking him on, but we're going to get really bruised and, come out of this worse than we came in, no matter what happens.
I have so many international friends who look at this in particular and go to me, Ben, what the hell is going on? And what in the world is going on? And, it's always important to reflect. They're like, could you imagine if our prime minister or our president did that, what you think about our country? And I go, yeah, I would think that you are a kakistocracy, authoritarian Kim Jong-un like regime. So,
and by the way, the universities of this country really are the envy of the world. So there are ways in which we're good, ways in which we're whatever. But this, he's really just completely, taking an axe to such an important part of the nation's standing in the entire world. It's so counterproductive and petty.
Well, everybody, make sure you subscribe to Harry Litman's Substack, YouTube, and podcast. They're all called Talking Feds. So just search Talking Feds on YouTube, Substack, and podcast. It's where I get my legal news from. Thanks, Harry.
Thanks, Ben.
Can't get enough Meidas? Check out the Meidas Plus Substack for ad-free articles, reports, podcasts, daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, and more. Sign up for free now at MeidasPlus.com.